So technical analysts have pointed out recently that we could be seeing lower gold price, and that's pretty good information. Probably means we'll get the opposite. July CPI numbers just came out and, well, no real surprises in them. There's slightly softer inflation than expected, 3.2% year over year versus an expected 3.3%. Now, I'm filming this during the knee-jerk reaction phase, so I really have to just squint a little bit. Usually what happens immediately following news like that kind of goes away. We'll probably see a minor rebalance from yesterday's drop. I think that was traders assuming the position in case they saw something more dramatic today. Now, if numbers would have come in hot, we would have seen a further drop, but like I said, we really didn't see much. So you can analyze the numbers that came out three different ways, but all it really comes down to in terms of gold price is whether it's going to change the Fed's rate decisions going forward. And again, there probably wasn't enough to trigger that. I'm sure there's a journalist somewhere trying to get more to this story. Any word from a Fed board member is going to have more impact on sentiment than anything we saw in today's data. But if we want to get a read on price trend going forward, we're going to have to look in a few other places. If you pay attention to the charts, maybe you've seen that gold price seemed to be getting ready to test the 200-day EMA. Now, right now, that's around 1908. Yesterday, gold was floating around 1915, so it's getting pretty close, especially if you consider the downward trend over the past few weeks. We saw a pretty steady decline from 1980 a few weeks ago in mid-July. Now, we aren't talking about dramatic drops in terms of percentage points, but those pullbacks have put gold below the 20, the 50, and the 100-day moving averages. And the reason that matters is that if gold drops below the 200-day moving average, well, chartists, they're going to tell you that it's going to continue to go down. Seems pretty basic, right? If gold is on its way down, it might continue to go down. But there is a little bit to that because traders place buy or sell orders at certain levels. And if a line gets crossed and those sell orders get executed, well, that's more downward momentum. Now, we need a quick price check here for perspective. In September of 2022, last year, gold dropped to $1,628. That was after hitting $2,039 in March. That spike in March, that was a reaction to Russia's invasion, of course. The drop in November, that was based on the Fed's aggressive rate hikes. And that slide started about this time last year. If you look at August 10th, well, gold was $1,791. And then it slid to the low of $1,628 by November before bouncing and then continuing to where we are now. And I left out the part where we actually hit a new all-time high in there, $2,052 in April. I guess that's pretty important too. But the point here is that we are seeing a lot of movement similar to what we saw last year, but we're seeing it happening at a level nearly $200 higher. I don't want to get too caught up in the charts, too caught up in the numbers, but if we were to look at last year's slide, I just mentioned the price was $1,791 about this time. Today it's $1,920. So if we saw that exact same fall, and that fall was pushed by some of the most aggressive rate hikes in 40 years, well, it would plot down to about $1,765 this year if we were to start from where the numbers are today. There's nothing signaling that. Gold doesn't follow any kind of seasonal trends like that. The only reason that I'm even talking about that number is as an outside possibility. Now, the more likely bottom right now is that 200-day EMA of $1,908. Everything that we can see right now looks like the more likely direction is actually up, but that does not mean that we won't see a dip. Again, looking at the charts, there's a lot of support at the 1950 level, and I'm still on Team $2,000 and up in 2024. But one reason that I'm looking at prices and looking at trend right now is that the main questions coming up right now are about timing large purchases. I don't know if that's because of bank anxiety or it's something else, but it's coming up a lot. Personally, I would be nervous to go heavy at the moment. I'm just not sure I'd run out and buy a tube of Buffaloes. If I thought we were at an actual low, I wouldn't be buying collectibles like these. And there's not any real justification for me buying this. There's not any specific timing. I've wanted this for a long time. But the reason that I wouldn't go heavy and buy a bunch of gold weight is just that we're in limbo right now. There are events that we could expect to move the price of gold up. There's somewhere in the near future. but we don't know when that'll happen. A Fed pivot, that's the big one. We don't have the information that we need right now to really guess when it's going to happen. It's more or less inevitable, but then we have the question of whether other news might outweigh that sentiment. So really what it comes down to is probabilities. There are no guarantees in any of this that gold is going to go one direction or the other. Now, I've already said that I think it's more likely that gold will go back to that 1950 range, but we don't have a trigger for that at the moment. The pullback, though, it seemed to be more about what could happen than anything that actually did happen. Any real significant drop is going to require some kind of news that leads to a sell-off, and I don't know what that would be. I still look at all of this, and I don't see anything other than a pretty narrow trading band. I'm not going to try to tell you what's happening with gold price, where it's going. I don't know. I'm just looking at probability and current news. There's no big trigger out there, so any significant move in gold price would be unlikely. So did I just make a video about gold price to say that I don't think much is going to be happening with gold price? It kind of looks that way, but this was more about technical analysts calling for that test of that 200-day EMA and a possible drop below it. And then down into the 1800s, that would have been a pretty big deal, but charts don't show news events. They only predict the past. And I can't predict the future either, unfortunately. I think the proof there is my answer to whether or not I'd go all in and buy a bunch of gold right now at current prices. And I wouldn't. That would still spread out my purchases, even though I think 1950 is more likely than 1880. That's $35 either direction. Not enough to hurt me long term, but probably enough to make me think I had bad timing if I missed it on a big purchase. Okay, so what was I saying? I had to turn off the mic for a minute, had to go buy that new high relief Liberty from the US Mint. I think I just mentioned that if I thought gold had hit its bottom, well, I wouldn't be buying collectibles. Well, I just bought one, and I bought kind of an expensive one. What I meant by that is that I would be buying as much weight in gold as I could. Collectibles, they go up on other factors. This particular coin is being sold at nearly 50% premium, and I think that's just kind of silly. Now, I don't doubt that I could get that back, but it would have to be through a private sale, or I'm going to have to wait a long time into the future to make a sale to a dealer. My local dealers will buy any of my past high relief Liberties for about the same price as a Buffalo, 2% over spot. The Bronco would be an exception, but my point here is just that I'm not making a bigger purchase than normal based only on timing for spot price. So we can call it good there. Let us know if you're buying that high relief tree from the US Mint and what you think about 50% premiums. Maybe I'm the only one who thinks that that's crazy, but if not, misery loves company. If you've got a take on spot price, I'd love to hear that too, so let us know. And then while you're in the comments, be sure to hit that like button if you found any of this interesting. Be sure you're subscribed with notifications turned on if you'd like to see more on the topic. And if you're still here, thanks again for watching. I always appreciate your time. Take care.